My name is Ryan Tedder. I am a songwriter, producer, and the lead singer of One Republic. I've been writing songs since I was 15. I've been doing music professionally since I was 20. The first single that I ever had recorded was J-Lo, Do It Well, followed by Natasha Bedingfield, Love Like This, and then about 3 months after that came Bleeding Love, Leona Lewis, which came out the same time as Apologize for my own band, One Republic. So those were my first few hits, and then shortly after that I did Halo. I've had hit records with Adele, Ellie Goulding, Burn, which was her first #1 record, Jonas Brothers, Sucker, and I executive produced their new album, worked with Paul McCartney. I produced the last two U2 records, collaborations with Peter Gabriel, worked with Madonna. I mean, it's kind of all over the map. I started playing piano when I was 3 years old. My dad was, back in the day, before I was born, he was a songwriter, wrote a lot of gospel records, had a bunch of different cuts, and was pursuing music full time for a while. Always had a piano nearby, always had music around me. My mom's not musical, so when my parents split up, I kind of was the sole torchbearer for music in my family. My stepdad was a banker. My stepsisters were not musical, so it was kind of, I pretty much hid my musical aspirations in the closet. I mean, literally in the closet. I used to practice singing to like Boys to Men cassettes and Belle Biv DeVoe and all the early 90s, mid-90s R&B stuff. I was always singing. It was like Rick D's Top 40s. That was like my access to culture every Sunday and every Saturday. So the Top 40 stuff was a mainstay, and I would make mixtapes off of that and practice singing in my closet upstairs. I would shut my door, then I'd shut the closet door, put a pillow down next to the thing so my mom couldn't hear me. And I did that for years. I was doing music in secret, both in college and in high school. I didn't have the balls to suck in front of an audience, and that's really what it came down to. So it wasn't until the summer between my junior and senior year that I was in Nashville. I entered a talent show that was MTV, and I ended up on MTV, and I won a record deal 2 months after I moved to Nashville on national television in New York on MTV. And Brian McKnight was a judge, and Pink was a judge, and it was like the precursor to American Idol. This is 1 year exactly before American Idol debuted. Timbaland saw me on MTV. He saw me win this record deal on MTV. My favorite producer in the world. Like my dream. I used to say if I could work with anybody, it'd be Timbaland. So long story short, he calls me. We talk for 3 hours. We talk music for 3 hours. He tells me his favorite band is the Cranberries. Alison Krauss is the best singer alive. He's like way more musical than I ever thought. He loves Oasis. And he's like, yo, I want to fly you out to LA. I'll be at Westlake. I want to meet you. We can hang, chop it up, and then I want to talk about doing a production deal with you. I said, okay, I don't even know what that is. And I fly out to LA a few days later, and I fly out to LA and I meet him, meet some other people. I'm like, okay. I fly back to Nashville. I get an offer from him, and Aton offers to partner with him, and they co-sign me to a production deal that is, for people who don't know, is like the precursor to a record deal. Timbaland years of my graduate degree, because he took what I knew. He listened to my demos and goes, oh, you're a producer. And what I would do is I would take like Michael Jackson, Invincible, Rodney Jerkins produced all that. I would take those songs and spend weeks. I'd pick one song, reproducing the song, the exact tempo, the exact sounds. I would go through every sound I had on my keyboard. I'd buy another keyboard, internet, download stuff, buy beat CDs through eBay, which I did all the time. And I would reproduce. I remember reproducing one of the tracks off Invincible, which took me forever because Rodney's a beast. And once I had it sounding like the record, I was like, oh, I know how to do this. And then I just kept, it's like, how do you figure out how to build a bicycle? Take one apart. And that's what I did. And because for years I'd been doing just writing pop songs, all of a sudden I took the beats I was doing and started writing pop records over the top of these beats. And before you know it, you've got like actual records. And the first song I had, I sold to Kylie Dean on Interscope. They made it her first single. And then I just kept doing that and pitching songs and met some music supervisors that work for film companies and started selling. I did for Step Up 1, the movie. I probably did half the songs in that movie. And that's how I started making money as a songwriter. If you've actually stumbled into a hit or the nexus of a hit, there's a very, very familiar innate reaction that is the aural equivalent, AURAL, equivalent of umami. How do you explain umami? It just, it when you taste it. Is it sodium? Is it sweet? Is it savory? It's like all these things, but it's more or less, fried rice with an egg and some soy sauce, and you have umami, and it's so satisfying, and your tongue knows it when you taste it, and that's like a hit record. It's it's audio umami. An example of aural umami. That's a hard word to say. Beyonce XO, that song I knew when I finished the first half of the demo, which was in a hotel room in Sydney Harbor. I knew that it was a hit. And it was one of those where when I sent it to Teresa, Beyonce's A&R and consigliere, and Teresa's kind of the gateway to all things Beyonce, it wasn't even where I was nervous or like, I wonder what she's going to think. It was like, I know I nailed exactly what she wanted. The first part of that album process was in the Hamptons at a house it was a writing camp for Beyonce. Like she rented a house in the Hamptons, the largest house in the Hamptons, like 1 billion square feet. I don't know. It was crazy. It was me and Sia and Greg Kurstin and Florence the Machine and James Fauntleroy, Jay-Z. We were all in the house. Everybody was writing for Beyonce. She was walking around with her baby, walking from room to room, just listening to what we were working on. And I remember Pharrell showed up at the front door. He had like a CD full of beats. Everybody was slinging beats at her to try and get a cut on this album. And I did a couple ideas that Beyonce week. I did a song with Sia. Then I did a song called Marathon that was super dope, but didn't make. She had 100 songs on hold. Didn't make the cut. And I leave the writing camp. A few months go by, and I'm in New York. And I don't know why I was there, but Teresa hit me and said, "Hey, if you happen to be in New York, Beyonce would like to see you." So I go up to the studio in Manhattan, and Beyonce plays me a few songs that she had recorded. And then she says, "I've got these 2 demos. One Kanye did and one The Dream did. Neither of them are finished at all, but they both have something in them that I love." And the Kanye one was like in pieces, and I took it, but I didn't work on it. And then the Dream one had a melody that I liked, the verse melody. It was a bunch of gibberish lyrics, a few words and phrases here and there that I could discern, and I tried to stick with his phonetics as much as possible. But the melody was brilliant. He had a verse melody, like, and then and that was kind of it. It was just a very rough demo. And I said, this one feels like there might be magic here. And anyway, I took it, and on the song title, there was no title to the song, but Dream had written like XO. And it was either a reference to like, he was literally either drinking Hennessy XO, which I think might've been the case, or like Hugs and Kisses, The Dream, like to Beyonce, right? I actually have never asked him where it came from, but the song had nothing to do with XO, the phrase, and what lyrics he had in there. There was no real chorus. It was just mostly that verse melody and that like pulsating kind of Rhodes, that keyboard. So I was flying to Australia to do some TV stuff. I think I did The Voice Australia for like a week, and that's a long ass flight. So I opened the session. I slept like the first part of the flight, and then I still woke up. I still had 8 hours left. So I opened the session on my laptop, and I spent 6 hours on that flight making that track. And so by the time I landed in Sydney, I had the song halfway done, and I'd already been working on the lyrics. I discerned there was no real second verse, but they're like the first verse lyrics. There were some first lyrics. I tried to like discern that out and figure it out. Like I added like all the drums. I redid all the Rhodes, the keyboard that he had going that goes throughout the whole song. I replayed that. I have a little keyboard and I had my headphones blaring, and again, you're on a flight to Sydney over the Pacific, so nobody can bother you. And this is probably 6 years ago, so there wasn't. I don't even think there was Wi-Fi on the plane. I really don't. So like you were isolated. It was great, and so I retracked everything, man. I did the synth, all the synthesizer stuff. There's a lot of ambient sounds and textures in XO, and all of it I did on that airplane, on my little rig. And then when I got to Sydney, I set up in the hotel. I had my microphone with me. I went for a run through the botanical gardens right there in Sydney Harbor, which is, whenever I stay in Sydney, we always stay near the harbor. And so I ran through that, and I was listening to the music on loop, writing the lyrics as I was jogging. And I came back to the hotel, and later that day recorded all the vocals, stacked them up, and finished the track. Like finished all the production to the very last. I mean, I don't think I ever changed or added anything after I left Sydney. She never intended the song. She even said the song's not called XO. She's like, that doesn't make sense. She's like, I think it's just something the Dream wrote on the CD. But I loved how it looked. XO. What a great song title. Even, I don't know, how am I going to make sense of that? I have no idea. And so when I was working in the song in the hotel room, I was like, singing the chorus. The chorus goes, in the darkest night, out in the darkest night, out, cut through the crowd, and she wanted the song to be to her fans. She said, this is my halo of this album. I want it to close the concert with it. And I want a song dedicated that's for my fans. So I pictured her in a stadium looking out and seeing that one person, like I see, of all the people in this crowd, I can see that person. And so I wrote it from that perspective, and but it's somebody that she loves, maybe, right? Because it's a little more romantic than just fan-based song. So it's like the person that she loves is in the crowd and she can see them. And then your love is all that I see. Give me your everything, baby. And then there was no lyric. Again, the Dream had some mumbles, but there was no lyric. So then I was like, how do I make this XO? How do I tie in the title? So the chorus ends, and it's like, give me your everything, baby. And I came up with the line, baby, love me, lights out. Baby, love me, lights out. Then you can turn the lights out. And then it goes in this big chant, this big post-chorus. I love you like XO, XO. You love me, boy, XO, XO. And that became, all right, there's the title. I just had it. When I was running through the botanical gardens in Sydney Harbor, that's when I came up with the idea. I was like listening to the chorus. Oh, and I remember I kept getting to the end of the chorus going, what the hell goes here? Like it needs another section. Like the anthem stadium, like everybody screams it. Now that's when that idea, like I recorded it into my phone when I was running. Like I'm sitting here panting and into the phone. I love you like XO, XO. You love me, boy, XO. Your love is like XO. Then back, give me all that I need. Give me your everything, baby. Love me, lights out. Love me, lights out. And so that's really how the song came together. And then I ran back to the hotel, recorded the post-chorus, stacked up the vocals as high as I could sing them, as deep, like as many stacks as I get. So I wanted to feel like a crowd of people. I had so much fun doing that record. So yeah, I sent in XO. Her label, Teresa, freaked out. Oh my God, this is so huge, Ryan. We love this. She loves it. I'll get back to you. Crickets. I don't hear anything. Then I want to say 4 months goes by, 5 months goes by, and I'm in London with Ella Henderson cutting the vocals on Ghost, which became a number one. It was the number one record. That and Pharrell Happy were the two biggest records of the year in the UK that year, 2014, something like that. So I'm recording the vocals on Ghost in a session. It's her first single, and I get a urgent text from Teresa LaBarbera White. I have a mix for you to hear. At this point, I'd assumed like so many things that happened in my career. I mean, I have, believe it or not, far more disappointment than I do success. And I'd assumed, as good as EXO was, she didn't keep it, didn't cut it. Maybe I'll make it a One Republic record. Maybe I'll cut it on somebody else. I don't know. Used to things not working out. So I hadn't even thought about it. And I get a call saying, hey, we need you to listen to a mix real quick. I was like, oh, what? She said, EXO. I was like, she cut it? So yeah, it's the first single. It comes out tomorrow. This was the invention of the cold drop. This is the first artist ever that just dropped an album with no announcement, no setup, no nothing. All the videos shot, all the music recorded, all the artwork done, tour set to go. And I got the call that it's dropping in 24 hours. And so I knew a day before Beyonce's album dropped that it was about to drop. And I made Ella leave the room, and everybody leave the room, and she was like, you have to clear the room out. I don't even want the engineer there. I was like, okay. Listen to the mix, and then I had to call the mixer, make some mix notes. I had like 3 hours to make any changes at all. And it had changed quite a bit from the demo, to be honest. It had changed quite a bit. She had I think she was sick when she sang it, but she liked how her voice sounded. It's kind of raspy, and it was very swung. She sang it behind the beat, and the drums had changed. I noticed that quite a bit of it had changed since I had done the original demo. But she still sounded like $1 million. And then that was it. And she was like, congrats, you have Beyonce's first single. I was like, what an interesting day that was. And then Ghost came out like a month later, and that was a huge hit for Ella Henderson. So it was a good month. And then that was right before I started the U2 project, and we first started working with U2. So yeah, that was the EXO. It was a 12-month process. It started the previous summer. In the Hamptons, writing for Beyonce, which led to me being in New York 3 months later, hearing demos and being handed that start of a record, to me going to Australia and finishing it, to, probably 4 months later, a year after the first writing camp for Beyonce, she drops the record 12 hours after I hear the mix, and that was it. Well, I think Songland is, it's 100% the most unique show, I think, in the history of music television. There's never been a show that's accurately nailed what songwriting is about and showcased it in a way that is like super informative, but also entertaining, because that's the truth. Is it still at the end of the day needs to be entertaining. And Songland is functionally turning a camera on a songwriting session between myself, Shane, Esther, and whoever happens to be standing on stage. It's really a songwriting session, which is a very private, very, mysterious thing, I think, to a lot of people. And you see what it takes to attempt to write a hit record, because you can't say, oh, we're guaranteeing the next hit record. Nobody can guarantee a hit record, but you've got people at the top of their game that are all gunning for the same thing, right? And so it's unique in that nobody's ever put a camera on it and actually shown how it's done or the process. And as far as the young writers that come on the show, and they're not all young. First of all, we have some 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 30-year-olds, and 18-year-olds. It is the absolute single greatest opportunity for any up-and-coming writer in America or the world. There is no scenario that exists that you could ever get in a room as a new writer, undiscovered, new, whatever, there's no world where you could ever get in the room with me, Esther, or Shane, not because we're snobs, but because we're extremely busy and there is a hierarchy system within the writing community. And I'm not sitting in a room it's just not happening. Nor is Shane, nor is Esther. Not because we're mean, but because that's the way it goes. You don't decide you want to be a cook, and then the next thing you know, you're sitting there being interviewed by Wolfgang Puck. It doesn't work that way. You pay your dues. This is like skipping 5 years worth of lines to get on the show. The fact that you're in the room with Charlie Puth or Kelsey Ballerini or Jonas Brothers, Macklemore, and 3 huge writers. It's never happened before. It's unprecedented. And it's not a gimmick. It's not for show. It's unprecedented access to the world of the professional world of songwriting and working with artists. My vibe with Shane and Esther is awesome. I think the reason we get along so well is, and this is, what somebody pointed out to us, when you're a songwriter and producer, every day you are swallowing your ego. Every day you're getting looked over. Every day you're getting passed over, dismissed. The artist will love you while they're in the room. When you're, if you give them your magic and you help create a hit record, they'll love you. And then, a couple months after that hit record is faded, you may not, they won't return your text. And that's just the truth. That's what happens. And you just get used to it as a writer producer. Now I am an artist, so I see it from both sides of the coin. And, you get busy and whatever, but like it is a very thick-skinned industry. You can't take things personally. Not getting a cut, you're single, not getting chosen, you can't take it personally. I've had so much disappointment, enough for 5 lifetimes. But you have to be thick-skinned and you have to bury your ego. And I think that if you're an artist, you're taught to embrace your ego. Like, be larger than life, be aspirational, be a dick. It's good. It's good for TV, whatever. That's not the case with writers and producers. We're so used to serving other people. So I think that's actually why Esther, me, and Shane get along, is because there is no battle of ego. Like, if anything, we don't want to accidentally overshadow the person to our right or our left. Like, I don't want to, do something that is self-aggrandizing or that marginalizes Esther's talent or Shane's talent. And they don't want to do that to me. And I think that's why we get along so well. It's because we're all cut from the same cloth.